who are going for a timing attack over towards Waterfall. Everyone else is trying to drop into those gold contested areas as quickly as possible so they can potentially pick up those purple upgrades. JL not able to find any good upgrades at the moment, just having to go all in. That Zayefri can do so much damage at the beginning. Kakashi with the Yodo F trying to just buy himself the spacing, but it will fade out in the second it does. He's going to be absolutely smoked, as we can see XG Xiaonan now the target of focus that JL come through with. They have to be quick, however, because FPX have had a better loot pathing and might come to third party the position. You can see that Water's getting ready to, I do believe, is that a pole sword that he has available to him? Jiahu's going to be meeting the Zai first of all. We can see the ultimate come through from VVV, getting that golden frame focus, putting all of the damage in to be able to build up the V2 fire tick, and Jiahu is absolutely evaporated. Now we can see all of the pressure coming out from JL, sending out the purple into the gold of that Zai ultimate. And this early on, when you just do not have the armor to be able to survive that initial damage, there's nothing you can do against the Zai.
Zai meta means that we're further and further away from potential Taka trios. Because if you didn't realize, if any of you didn't know, Zai is possibly one of the most horrible Taka matchups that exists. She just completely locks it down. Speaking of getting locked down here, though, got J-Team in that 1v2 situation doing an extremely good job, but unfortunately it is not to be. And he is going to finally get taken down. J-Team Lee did put up a considerable fight there up against Jing and Yeran, but Bowder do come out victorious there. But you could see the Zai the Zai prowess there. The F3 coming out, the knock up into the ultimate, using it to just catch him out of the air. He falls to the ground. She's constantly tagging him as he falls, and then immediately has that F3 ready to go. The moment that she gets that takedown, it goes on to the other player. It's just so oppressive in that early game. When you were talking about how are they going to be able to come away with this victorious, you know, like, since FPX has the better loot pathing, problem is that because of the new glyph system and the ridiculous amount of rage that you can get early on in a game, if you have a fight early on, not only if you're taking initial rage, but just taking rage in general, you're going to get so much value. You're going to be able to get your ultimate so quickly early on.
We're about to see the free F3s. Oh, Wolves. There's the one F3. Is it going to be the ultimate activation to the second? Is the material ultimate for the third? Yes, it is. There's one ultimate. The V2 cone kicking on through, catching onto Wolf. Smolch trying to force the combo breaker as quickly as possible. Smolch ultimate gets dropped down onto the Zai, but we have the F3 to try and reposition our way out of it. They'll still get caught into the wind wall, but will be able to position into a place that Wolves are not able to follow up onto the Zai and get the punishment. Mitari's still holding the ultimate as well, which means that we're going to have a third F3 in a matter of moments when she decides to throw it in. That's the Monk Bell now being popped. We get to see Dragon Slayers coming through into the Nezhas might clear the space.
Oh, he got grabbed anyway.
VVV, however, gets grabbed by EG, even with the Matari ultimate used to try and obscure the Zai's positions. But EG is still able to find the grab. And now it's just going to be the players from JL looking to try and kite away from this Monk until EG's ultimate has gone down. He's taking a little bit of pressure coming through, has to drop the ultimate, picks up the Soul Bloom to be able to get a little bit of healing, and focus now comes on to that Monk. We can see that the Fairy is already forced into the Mech Jam, popping into the V3 to be able to cover for his Tian High player. Yuji using the halberds to be able to just throw out that charged vertical and push JL away from being able to follow up onto him. As unfortunately, JL at the moment, without an ultimate, are looking a little bit lost about how they can try and recover into this fight. Now they pop onto Wolves EG, who goes incredibly low, but he kites towards his Ferret to try and use the cannon connections to peel his position. And as a result, he has been able to live a little bit longer. JL, however, have VVV run back off of the Soul Altar, pick himself up one weapon from the body, now comes in with that Zai ultimate to be able to put even more pressure onto the Ferret once the mech's gone, and VVV with the salty run back actually makes it work. JL are able to put the punishment onto Wolves the second that the ultimates are removed, and the Zai gets to come back with her own to have the last say in the story.
So this is kind of crazy. Something that I noticed during that fight is that both teams had essentially almost all white armor except for a couple of them, one of them with the blue armor. And this really speaks to how much the Immortal War changes has impacted how the game is played. Now, early game, you're gonna have to get really lucky to be able to get yourself a purple armor. We see FPX does happen to have a purple armor on water here, but I think that's the only purple armor we've seen so far. But that fight on the ice lake, you know, both teams called for that salty run back, for that res to come through. And the thing is, VVV, like JL having that Zai, because the enemy team doesn't have decent armor, you know, even though they're playing Sandmech, they're still not going to be able to come out on top because they're going to have the zipping healing is going to keep them topped up. Even though one of them to take it down, it's not going to be enough. They're not going to have those armors. They're not going to have those scaling factors that allow them to stay alive in that situation. And Zai is just going to cut them down. But we're heading on over to the zone here. Bowther fighting DRG in the zone. The Viper ultimate having come through, but the Kurumi able to mitigate a lot of the follow-up coming in from that stun. Jing does get taken down here. WFZ. DRG coming out victorious. Peak and Yeran are going to try and get this res onto their teammates. I'm not too sure if this is looking all that good for them. Both of their armors were stripped from their bodies just before the teleport did come through, meaning that they're not going to be able to heal up as much as the other team, and the zone is going to continue ticking away at their health. Peak does go down. Jing as well yet again. Now Yeran in a very tough situation. He had a golden longsword, but it's just not going to be enough for him. And unfortunately, they are going to be going to that spirit realm and losing their golden longsword. Sad to say, sad to see. It is what it is.
I mean, great news for the Sun Siphon too, because Takeda gets his hands on legendary longsword, which is one of those weapons that yeah, before first Yang too. So that is 100% going to be a team that wants to take a realm of Yang fight, especially because DRG have so many kills currently to their name. Wolves unfortunately having to sit inside that great sword. Does manage to hit the V3 connection when he does actually get chased down into the melee 1v1, using the boosters to be able to keep himself as mobile as possible and get the reset. JJH, how much are they going to try and chase onto this Feria? As Gem is unfortunately the sacrificial goat. He's the one that's just pulling JJH's focus further and further away so that EG can survive a little bit longer as the Stone Form doesn't release. Oh, we released that time, but we send it away from JJH so we don't get backstepped into parry. As JJH will be able to clean up the Feria, but crucially, they did not clean up the other player from Wolves, who already was able to get that way over to a dealer, pick up a rebirth charm, and then use it to get one of their teammates back into the mix. As JDG step inside the realm of Yang, are they going to see challenge? Surely some of these teams are going to make a step forward. Alliance do have a composition that we have seen taking a realm of Yang. Like I said, every single Zai team was trying to get inside these realm of Yangs, but you can see the current circumstance of currency at the moment. Meta has moved. And like Dunker said, it is so much harder to be able to get your hands on those better Soul Jades, and it puts so much more focus on your abilities being able to actually clear this fight up for you. Scale Rush comes on through, Bo repositioning away from the Nezha's Might with that Zai F3, now using the ultimate to be able to get one back and keep positioning himself away from the Tumultuous ultimate that got dropped onto the Zai. Matari ultimate now comes through so we can get a third F3 to reposition, because they're still fully focused on trying to chase down exactly where this Zai has gone out. Really good peel coming through from the other two players of Alliance's. JDG have absolutely no idea where the Zai has disappeared to, and it's the Takeda shelves coming in out from 2-6, which is clearing up all of the space. Kiki getting to follow up with the charge vertical on the fan. Revenge gets a huge double parry, however, might be able to turn the tide into Alliance's favor, but Alliance have already lost Bo, and at the moment 2-Tick and this Tumult are just constantly releasing charged verticals on the fan, and that longsword chipping through and getting so much cleave onto the players of Alliance once they get staggered that there's just no way they can possibly turn it around. And oh, you want charged verticals on your fan? Now you've got a legendary fan to be able to get even more damage off the back of it.
Indeed. Not sure why he put it in his back pocket there. He did pick it up. I'm not sure if he's done that deliberately or what, but perhaps he's expecting that he'll get. Maybe he's gonna lose it, and then pull out the gold one. You know.
I would not put it past these players to have that sort of idea. Like, he's either saving it so that people don't realize that he has a legendary fan, because, like, these players, once they realize that you have a legendary this early on, it paints a huge target on your back, right? Because if you can't, as a player, go into a Realm of Yang and win one to be able to access that loot, the next best way is to absorb it off of another team.
I mean, that is true, but the trouble is that it's not very easy to do this sort of thing, because the teams that are going to have legendary loot are the teams that are coming away from a Realm of Yang with a buff as well. So yeah, you could definitely tell which team has a golden item, but to actually take them down is going to be rather difficult. But I wanted to talk about the fact that JL, like, after that fight early on against I think it was Wolves, they had 9 kills. They all had white armor. Oh yeah, you just have white and blue weapons. Like, they have 9 eliminations that early on, and it's just insane. Like, we can definitely see the prowess of this composition here. The fact that we're able to take so many fights, so many aggressive engagements early on, even if you don't have like insane scaling. Because of the Zai pick, because of the F3 lockdown and knock-up, you're going to get so much value out of this Zai pick. And it's just not the same as the Takeda. You know, Takeda, he does have so much CC and so much lockdown, but he requires you to have the weapons and the certain setup and the follow-up from your teammates most of the time to actually be able to get all that much value. But with the Zai, she's much more self-sufficient. She doesn't require to not be silenced to be able to actually use her ultimate effectively. Yeah, she won't be able to use her F3, but does that really matter in the grand scheme of things when she can just mash mouse 1 into you and just hold it down? You know, you're gonna get so much value, and then if you're ever in a bad spot, you got F3 to reposition just like perfectly. Perfect example. Thank you, VVV. You just it demonstrates it perfectly. One of his teammates does go down, unfortunately, but having that Vermilion Bird's Might is going to do a lot for them here. VVV getting caught out of his F3 mid-air here by that Tessa V1. I think he's just going to go quietly into the no, Mortal Defiance. Okay, slight delayed death there, but
he can't choose when Mortal Defiance pops, you know?
Yeah, unfortunately, he can't choose, and he does lose that very useful resource. But one thing that we saw just there, he got parried. He had a purple weapon in his hand, got parried, lost it, and then he pulled out a golden weapon afterwards. So is this just something that teams are doing here? You know, that they're not using their highest rarity weapon. They're holding it in the back pocket, keeping it.
They can be much more aggressive. Right, they can throw out focus without having to worry about losing the better weapon for things like the Takedas or the Farriers, who are so heavily loot dependent on their ultimates being upgrades. As we can have a look at DRG now.
That's true, but
head-to-head with XCG WFC, getting a little bit of action with the legendary Hong Swords. EWG's free, putting pressure onto XCG's Kakaishi Takeda ultimate, going to make it even harder for that Kurumi to be able to reposition, and or rather that Farrier? That looked like the Kurumi default skin. Oh, but it's not, because XCG were running Yodo Cannonball. As we can have a look at EWG now trying to hunt down one of these players from DRG, going all the way into the zone to be able to keep the chase. Last Fear and Shove coming through as well. Tumult Ultimate going to be dropped on top of another Tumult Ultimate, making it harder for DRG to, unfortunately, try and reposition away as he does now go down. Was it a sacrificial play, or was that? Yes, it was. DRG are able to use the Tumult, keep EWG's attention with that Tumult Ultimate long enough that their Kurumi and Takeda can reposition. Unfortunately, EWG are about to lose their Kurumi to Yang depletion. Having those timers old in the Soul Blooms means that we're going to be seeing this state, unfortunately, occur a whole lot more than it already did. EWG, however, do have an awful lot of money, so they should be able to buy them right back as Bowder dance around the spirit well directly in the snowstorm, No one currently contesting them, which is very good news for this team because they do not have a lot of great gear at the moment. This is going to be instant upgrade, as we can see EWG instantly purchasing a rebuff charm. They'll be using that in a matter of moments. Do we get anything good from Barda? We get a purple armor for our Viper. And we can actually see the EWG went for the rebuff charm. JDG unchallenged. Get a Realm of Yang. That is interesting. I thought for sure a team like JL would have maybe gone through to challenge this, but I guess JL anticipated that they were sitting on so many kills. It was better to not put themselves into a position where they could potentially lose a Realm of Yang. Be stuck with that Yang depletion, forced to take way too aggressive fights, and then go out before the kill multiplier properly goes into play. What is interesting is the fact that JDG picked up Draco Storm. It did get buffed a little while back, and we have seen a couple of teams occasionally pick it up on the second Realm of Yang, but it's always a surprise when we don't see the Mystic Might coming through because of how well information Mystic Might sets you up with. The damage reduction, the fact that you can see players in certain timings 100 meters from you is incredibly strong. That being said, I think they were able to put their hands onto a bounty, so they do get a good read of a team that they're immediately able to all in on if they do so choose.
Indeed. No, I think it just comes down to the risk that you're talking about. JL, they've got so many kills already, they don't need to run the risk of going into a Realm of Yang and losing and getting stuck with that Yang depletion debuff that is just the killer of so many teams. You know, you just get caught in that desperation mode, and it's just impossible to really do anything, unfortunately. But I think the Draco Storm pickup is definitely just comes down to the fact that it did get buffed. The duration of it did get buffed so that now it matches the Mystic Might, meaning that but like I think that was one of the main reasons why it didn't get picked up so often. But not only that, the fact that it didn't regenerate your ultimate on pickup, but that's why we're seeing it getting picked up here, because they didn't go contested. JDG didn't get contested in the Realm of Yang, therefore they didn't need to use their ultimates. Therefore, they don't need to pick up a buff that gives them their ults back. So they're able to immediately go into a fight with Draco Storm and just tear through teams. And it looks as though that might be exactly what they're about to do here. They come through the portal with the F1 ready to go and active. And it looks as though they did spot out JJH. Perhaps not. Perhaps it's simply a coincidence that they're going in the same direction. I'm pretty
sure it's the team that they have a bounty on.
It's the bounty.
Because they picked up a bounty when they came out of Realm of Yang.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, no, you are right. The map is sort of slightly different.
Yeah, the red circle just disappeared, but they'd been chasing that red circle for a little bit, and the red circle disappeared the direction JJH went. So I would assume it's JJH. As we can have a look and see where this zone is going to be collapsing into. Crucially, JL are really far behind in terms of rotations. Like, they are playing as safe as they possibly can be. They want to be the last teams rotating. They don't want to get spotted out. I mean, it does make sense, as we've talked about. The Zai composition does struggle when we go later into the game, especially if you're forced to all in your ultimates. The fact that you get 3 F3s is so crucial in being able to reposition the Zai, keep the Zai alive, but also just use the F3 for a kill confirm, which can be really strong. It also forces your hand into burning, however, both the Matari ultimate and the Zai ultimate a lot of the time at the same time. So I would not be surprised if we see JL now lagging a little bit behind so that they don't get spotted out, running a composition, which if you force them into burning ultimates, unlike the Wu-Chen composition, doesn't immediately have a bail in case of emergency strategy. As we can have a look and see loadouts, that's going to be blue and green. No surprises that the Zai is running part of red to get that damage reduction. Everyone else on JL running blue and green though. So skill CD reduction plus 18% and then 8% discount between the two of them as well. So 16% full discount coming on for JL's players. Unfortunately for them, they have run directly into another team by trying to activate that campfire to be able to hold on to their rage meter. They've shown themselves to FPX, who are they going to try and chase this, or are they going to maneuver away? Nope, looks like FPX are more than happy to just sit back and control this dealers so that no one gonna take the time and potentially grab some nice, tasty upgrades.
Indeed. So another thing that I wanted to note is the fact that for the last couple minutes, there's only been 18 people left alive. I noticed it just as the clock was heading into the 11th minute mark. You know, it's definitely a huge contrast from some of the games that we've had in the past couple of weeks. At around 9 minutes, you'll typically still see at least 25 players still alive, but now from around 12 to 9 minutes, we've had, well, since 12 minutes, we've had 18 people alive. And I think that does speak to the prowess of the Zai composition, and as well to the fact that there are so many teams fighting it out early on in the game. You know, and because of the fact that you just don't get the same quality of loot that you used to do, now you're a lot more punishable. So if you get caught in a bad situation, having that loot to fall back on, having that armor to play with, it's just not a thing anymore. So you just don't have the ability to stay alive and stay just keep going and allow for your zippings to continue topping up that purple armor, giving you a bigger health pool to work with, etc. Even though technically white armor gives you more effective health than it used to, it's still not enough, you know. And I think that's also partially the reason why when they changed Immortal War, they changed the armor as well, is because they knew that these kind of situations were going to arise, is that you're not going to be able to get purple armor, you're not going to be able to get blue armor as consistently early on, and if you don't, like, having that little bit extra from your white and blue armors is going to mean quite a lot, and it's actually going to mean that some of these teams just don't get instantly obliterated by somebody themselves
there's a reverse, and it's directly on top of the spirit well. Oh, yeah, FPX are just going to have control of this. No one is going in to contest this.
Yeah.
No one wants to get stuck inside that silence.
Yeah, with
because it acts as a huge hitbox, too, to stop ranged weapons. I mean, Thunderdome already acts as a way to stop outside damage from coming in. But FPX are getting an absolute... just showing off. Yeah. FX are getting an absolute treat. Jail, ooh, they're thinking about potentially trying to come through and maybe scoop something up. Because they do still have one person running blue armor, but it looks, yeah, there's still a purple armor left behind. And Jail immediately gets to slide in and just steal that purple armor away, because it was not an upgrade for FPX, who already have 2 lots of legendary armor and 1 purple on their Tesla. They are absolutely scaled through the roof right now. The problem is they're currently behind in terms of kills. They've only got 5 as opposed to JL, who they may well end up scrapping over right now because they're contesting this high ground so they can have their Viper sit up here, because that is Viper V1, not V3. Yes, 70% damage reduction and legendary armor is going to go a long, long way. However, unlike the V3 variants where the effect kits in the second that the tether attaches to a player, the V1 has the charge up time, which is why we saw so often Vipers would scale up in trees and then drop down with the V1 charging up to surprise, hit onto those players and activate that stun window. And it looks like FPX are going to have to go back to the textbooks on how to exactly play that one out. As we get Bane's Breath right in the middle. No team's really wanting to take a fight right now for fear of being forced to reposition and surf right through that AoE. Bowder, it looks like, being one of those teams, unfortunately a little bit too close to the AoE's peak. Just skipping out of the way of that one is JL. No surprises, they're just trying to stay as unnoticed as possible. 30 seconds left on the Bane's Breath. We know what the final zone is going to be as well. A lot of these teams getting into position to be able to punish any teams left a little bit late on the rotation if they're on the wrong side of the Bane's Breath and have to cross out into the open space. That's what we're going to see everyone really start to get pressured, not just by the Vipers and the Tessers, but also by the ranged phase that is about to come through and try and rip through some of these resources.
Indeed. The fact that we're seeing so many the 2 gold armors on FPX is pretty... I mean, so I think that with these new changes, with these Spirit Wells, Thunderdomes, whatever you'd like to call them, they do end up creating situations where a lot more players are going to have golden armor, and it typically does also end up with one team just having triple gold armor, as well as I mean, I don't necessarily want to say that it's easier to secure than a box, but it kind of is, you know, because you don't have to stand in such a tightly packed position to actually unlock the box. You don't have to just stand still. You're not getting like fired down upon by cannons and what have you. You know, you
don't have to use Tumult either.
You don't have to use Tumult Gold unless you go contested, exactly. So you are able to secure these golden armors and this loot in this endgame if you're already in a position where you're pretty hard to deal with. If you're already pretty scaled up and you have that, for example, golden Hang Sword with Aurora Burst, you're going to be able to secure those things very well, not necessarily easily, but it's not going to be that difficult, let's say. But you know what is difficult? Flames, JJH, they are finding it very difficult to stay alive right here. They're getting pressured constantly, and I think the main reason as to why that's happening is because all three members are stuck on blue armor. They've only managed to pick up one elimination so far this game. All three members having blue armor is just not the place you want to be in at this point in the game, in this end game. If anybody sees you with blue armor, you are immediately going to become the focus of many of these teams, and they're trying their best to fight off the onslaught here. Godley, he does have his ultimate available. He used that Ferrier at V3, the mech, to try and apply some pressure outwards. But one thing to note as well here, you can see that FPX are looking to contest the Spirit Well yet again, and because they have these two golden armors, they have that Aurora
they
Burst,
get three.
They're going to get three. Like, who can contest them here? Like, JL could potentially look to drop down on them, but that means that they're going to have to commit their Zai ultimate, they're going to have to commit their Matari ultimate to power through this Viper.
I mean, do you know what would be a total grief move? Let FPX unlock it, and then send your Zai in with every rotation to just scoop up the legendary armor before FPX are able to nab it.
I mean,
I would 100% see some teams doing that.
But it looks as though
FPX have been forced away. JL are the ones who are now contesting that Spirit Dome.
I don't know if they got forced off. I think they chose to dip, actually. I think because there wasn't necessarily any pressure coming through from JL.
Well, there's definitely pressure on them now. They have lost all of the legendary armor. They're forced to take cover inside the building. Tumult Wisp gets sent that way. JJH tries to body block on the doorway. Corki throws out the Tessa V1 to be able to buy FPX the space to be able to recover, but it is still incredibly rough for this team as they are being all-in on right now. EWG turning onto Bowder, forcing the Wuchen teleport into the zone for the team to try and slip away unnoticed. Unfortunately for them, JL are directly opposite where that teleport went to and are able to come in and clean up some of the players. Godly incredibly low inside that Monk ultimate, does not have the Kurumi, does not manage to time the iframe cancel on the Tessa V1. Had to cancel it early to be able to try and put himself onto that high ground and get a heal off before the enchantment hit on through, and that is going to be a dead Transformer. JL's VVV coming in with that Zai ultimate is going to have another effort. He utilizes it when he sees the Tessa V1 connected onto his body to be able to reposition, rotate back to his team so they can cover for him when that 3-second window starts to stun the Zai up. Really good play coming through from JLTXJ, showing off the jabbing, connecting onto JJH's Chulu, forcing him into the Fairy Mech outside of that zone. As now we get to see the Viper ultimate come on through. V1 from Water, who's looking to try and find the stun onto a player. They're able to find it onto JDG. Tutik immediately going to go down. Water throwing out the Aurora Burst, gets interrupted before it can come in on full. And FPX now take cover inside the building with Water trying to provide the spacing for his team to be able to recover. JL currently on 15 kills, JDG on 10. It's going to be an absolute battle between these two to come out on top, but FPX are making their presence known. JL lose one thing. JDH Chului is able to pick that one up as Water goes aerial, has that Viper V1, uses it now. This is going to be an absolute huge battle on every single player left in the lobby, but he's interrupted. JDG is Tutic got picked back up by the team. The Takeda ultimate griefs FPX's MVP attempt. And as a result, they lose their win condition. EWG's XG now stand outside of the zone, having to come in for the charge, right click on the pulse to come back into the safety. JDT's Keck is going to go down to that chip damage, but I don't think they had enough kills to take it away from JL, who might be able to look up MVP back to back. Screen and camera still hovering on the TRIOS team before cutting over to JDG.